Evan, for the back half of today's show, we are going to be catching up on some news from Spotify. It's a company you follow quite a bit.
Yeah, so look, we're getting reports now that they're about to launch in India, and they've been eyeing that market for a long time and really kind of talking it up about the potential there. So now it seems like they might actually be able to launch in the next 6 months. And India is the second most populous country in the world with 1.3 billion. So, I mean, there's a lot of people there to potentially address. And their prospectus for the IPO earlier this year confirmed that they had leased some office space and hired some employees. So they were already laying down some groundwork, and it sounds like they're getting close to moving in.
Yeah, and the international expansion strategy, we've seen them roll to more and more countries in the past year or so, and they've enjoyed some good amount of success with that because they are not forcing people to pay for a product right off the bat. They have this model that lets people come in, use something on the free side, kind of see all the benefits, and then work their way up to a paid subscription model.
Right. So that's been a real key to their growth in emerging markets is the fact that they have this free ad-supported tier that they can get people on board at no cost and then try to convert them to paid subscriptions later on. Of course, that's the opposite of what Apple does. Since Apple Music has no free tier, there's only a paid version, which does limit its uptake in emerging markets. And I mean, just as kind of another interesting point here, Spotify previously said that with this model, once they successfully convert a free user to a paid user, it takes about a year, 12 or 13 months for them to break even compared to like all the money they kind of were missing out on when they're offering the free service.
So there was some speculation that they might buy into this market and acquire someone rather than have them expand their own platform there and kind of start from scratch. Are you surprised that they wound up going this route?
Yeah, it sounds like the deal, they just couldn't get a deal done, so they're just going to go ahead and expand on their own organically, which, I mean, they do have a very strong brand globally. It might be a little bit trickier to, build that brand from scratch in India since there are a lot of other players there. We'll have to wait and see how that plays out.
Yeah, it's worth noting here, there are, I think, two big streaming players that are domestic market players on top of, the competition that they're going to be getting already from people using YouTube and things like that to consume content. So it's not like Spotify is just going to go in there and immediately add a ton of subscribers. There's a pretty competitive market there. The local services, I'm probably going to mispronounce this, but Gaana, Gaana, and then Savin or Savin, Saavn, they both have tens of millions of subscribers. So a little bit of an uphill battle there for Spotify.
Right, and YouTube is by far the dominant source of music for India, specifically because it's free and there's just so much music content on YouTube. And I mean, I think the big thing here is that, one of the biggest hurdles, as is often the case in the music streaming industry, is obtaining the licensing rights to be able to operate in those markets. And I think a lot of these rights holders weren't very happy with, Spotify. Over the past 6 months, Spotify has been inking these direct licensing deals with independent artists, which kind of cuts out record labels out of the loop. And, they're not too happy about that. But of course, Spotify has always said, hey, we're not trying to replace labels. We're just trying to offer different models for how to do business with these smaller artists that maybe don't need that type of representation. So that creates some tension and some issues. But reportedly, those have all now been resolved. And Spotify does have enough of the rights that it needs to really feel comfortable with this launch.
I think big term, this is probably something that a lot of Spotify investors are probably pretty thrilled with. You mentioned before, it's second largest market, and it's not like China is going to become accessible. They are very walled off to a lot of foreign players. And so this is kind of the remaining big fish for them to go out and really establish themselves in. Putting this into context, understanding how this news, how this move will start impacting the numbers that investors are looking at quarter to quarter, what I think we'll see as they get up and running is a surge in free users. What's important to note, and you and I were going back and forth before the show about this, is this won't hit their ARPU number, even though these are free users coming on board.
Right. So the ARPU number that they report is specifically related to their premium segment. And that being said, I mean, the ad-supported segment is just... they don't make a lot of money there. I mean, the margins are terrible, as you would expect. And I think that's going to be the real big challenge here is monetization and premium conversion over time. Just because, I mean, India is not a rich country, and most people don't have a lot of discretionary income to pay for a service like Spotify. So, that's going to be a challenge, I think. Even if you look like super long term, though, like decades out, India's rising middle class could help. As people, more and more people come into the middle class, that could change their ability and willingness to pay for a music streaming service. But I mean, that could take quite a long time. But in the meantime, if Spotify can just get in there, establish a stronger presence and brand and position than Apple, and Apple's always done very poorly in the Indian market across pretty much every way, I think it could still end up paying off.
Yeah. And so this is something that is more or less an extension of what we've seen from them as a strategy. It's not like this is going to be any different in terms of operating process or anything like that. And it's not like this is going to be the move that really changes the financials for this company. If anything, it might make things a little bit worse before they get better.
Right. In the near term, I'd agree with that. But I do think it's still worth going after it since there's just so many people. And I mean, there's a big opening because Apple doesn't really address these emerging markets. So Spotify can really fill that void. But again, the challenge will be building sustainable and profitable business on it.
Yeah, always a struggle.